Everything began on the day the sky seemed to collapse before my eyes, the day Aurora, my best friend, was getting married. She wasn't just a friend, she was my sister in spirit, my soulmate, the other half of all the joyful years of my youth. We had done everything together, studying, eating, shopping, talking through the night until dawn. And now, she was about to become someone's wife, and I was no longer the most important person in her life. In the bridal dressing room, wearing my bridesmaid dress, I hugged Aurora tightly and cried uncontrollably. Panic took over as I bombarded her with questions. What if your husband treats you badly? What if your mother-in-law bullies you? Will we still see each other often? My emotions were tangled in chaos. I couldn't imagine my life without her. Aurora, gentle and patient as always, just stroked my hair tenderly, half teasing, half comforting. Gemma, I'm just getting married, not moving to another planet, she smiled. We're still living in the same city. But my heart couldn't calm down. In a hesitant, fragile voice, I asked, am I still your best friend? She nodded, her warm smile as soft as the morning sun, but it wasn't enough to soothe the unease growing inside me. Things only got worse when Jeremy Compton, the groom, walked in, holding Aurora's hand affectionately. From the very first time I met him at a party, I disliked him. He was too calm, too perfect, and worst of all, too good at stealing my best friend away from me. I looked at him like an overprotective father watching his daughter being taken by someone else. I despised his confidence and the victorious smirk he gave me, as if to say I was no longer needed in their world, and from that moment on, I made myself a promise, no matter what it took, I wouldn't let Aurora drift away from me. Even if I had to dive into the world of the Compton family, I would do it. Aurora's wedding wasn't just a turning point in our friendship, it was the beginning of a crazy plan I never thought I'd dare to carry out. While everyone raised their glasses to toast the happy couple, I stood alone among the golden lights and laughter. I couldn't take my eyes off Aurora, radiant in her pure white wedding gown, glowing beside Jeremy Compton. And then, amidst the crowd, I saw him, Daniel Compton, the groom's older brother. That man entered the scene like he had just sliced through time itself. He was tall, dressed in a sleek black suit, with a cold, distant face and deep-set eyes that made people both wary and drawn to him. Unlike Jeremy's friendliness, Daniel exuded a quiet reserve, a silent strength. And somehow, that calm presence made him stand out even more. With just one glance, I knew, this man might be the key to never losing Aurora. A bold thought flashed through my mind, if I became a Compton, I'd never have to be apart from Aurora. If she was marrying Jeremy, then maybe I could marry Jeremy's brother, Daniel. It sounded crazy, even to me. But at that moment, it felt like the only way to hold on to the friendship that was slowly slipping through my fingers. Without hesitation, I walked up to him. With the most charming smile I could muster, I initiated the conversation. You're the groom's brother, right? I'm the bride's best friend. Daniel glanced at me, his voice low and cool. I know. A short, indifferent reply, but I wasn't discouraged. After the wedding party, I found a way to get Daniel's number, no matter what it took. And from that day on, my little mission began. Every night, I texted him, do you attend weddings often? If so, can I reserve you as my dance partner for mine? They say cold men are the sweetest when in love. Is that true, Daniel? I'm brewing chamomile tea, but I think it's missing your signature chill. I used all the charm, humor, and boldness I had to catch his attention. I didn't know what he truly thought of me, but at least, I had planted the first seed in my plan, to become Aurora's sister-in-law. What I didn't expect was that the universe had already arranged the perfect opportunity for my crazy little plan. Just a few weeks after Aurora's wedding, my company received a partnership invitation from a major corporation, the very one led by Daniel Compton. The project involved their luxury hotel chain expansion across Asia. and I was appointed as the team lead. The moment I saw the name Compton on the project file, my heart nearly jumped out of my chest. This was fate, and I had no intention of letting it slip away. On my first day at Compton Group headquarters, I dressed modestly but elegantly, a crisp white blouse, a navy pencil skirt, and my hair neatly pinned up. I wanted him to see me as a professional woman, not just someone who sent flirty texts. Daniel walked into the meeting room right on time. He was still as cold as when we first met, his eyes giving away nothing when they landed on me. But I didn't falter. Throughout the meeting, I spoke clearly and confidently, presenting practical, well-thought-out proposals. I noticed him nod slightly a few times, not much, but just enough to tell me I was making progress. As the meeting wrapped up, I approached him, deliberately slowing my pace so the others would leave first. I smiled softly, didn't expect we'd meet again so soon. Daniel glanced at me, the corners of his lips curving just a fraction. I figured you'd find a way. I laughed. So, do I need to send you more memes, or are you starting to find me interesting? He didn't answer, just turned slightly. But I caught that look. A flicker of attention, no longer as distant as before. In the meetings that followed, I stayed professional, but I always left a trace of me behind, a well-timed joke, a lingering glance, or a coffee placed gently on the table even though no one had asked. Gradually, Daniel stopped keeping his distance. He began asking me questions unrelated to work. Do you always work this late? In a creative field like yours, where do you find inspiration? I knew exactly what that meant. These were the first signs of a personal connection beginning to bloom beneath the surface of our professional facade. I was stepping deeper into his world, no longer just the best friend of his brother's wife, but a woman slowly becoming a part of Daniel Compton's thoughts. The first time I stayed late in Daniel's office until nearly midnight was on a rainy evening. The rest of the team had left early, and I remained, hunched over, refining our presentation plan for the next day. I didn't think he was still around, until the office door opened and he walked in, holding a cup of hot coffee. Planning to sleep at the office? He asked, his voice tinged with sarcasm, though his gaze was no longer cold. I smiled softly, stretching a little. Just a bit more. I don't want to mess up tomorrow. He placed the coffee on my desk. Then drink this before you pass out. I was surprised, not because of the coffee, but because of his voice. It was deeper, softer. For the first time, I didn't see him as the cold CEO, but as a man who genuinely cared. That night, I was so exhausted I dozed off in the car after he offered to drive me home. When I woke up, I found myself covered with a coat, his familiar scent still lingering. Daniel sat silently in the driver's seat, soft music playing, his eyes watching the quiet road ahead. Have you been waiting long? I asked, my voice hoarse. He shook his head. Not that long. You were sleeping so deeply, I was afraid to wake you in case you got grumpy. Embarrassed, I tried to return the coat, but he simply gestured, keep it. It's still cold. After that night, Daniel changed. I decided to try something, silence. I didn't text him in the morning. No memes at night. No teasing messages at all. And then, something unexpected happened. Daniel texted first, where have you been today? Why haven't you been bothering me? I read that message over and over, unable to hide my smile. Was he worried? Really? From that day on, we started talking more. Not just about work. He told me about his childhood, about losing his mother early, and about why he always kept his distance from people. I listened, and sometimes, I noticed his gaze linger on me longer than usual. As if I was no longer just the annoying girl always tagging along with his sister-in-law, but someone he wanted to understand, someone he wanted to get closer to. Daniel didn't say anything outright, but every small action spoke volumes. the cup of ginger tea placed next to my laptop when I coughed, the way his eyes followed me as I left the meeting room were the simple question, "Gemma, are you feeling tired today?" All of it seemed to speak in place of his heart. I knew then that I was no longer playing a one-sided game. This was no longer just my move on the chessboard. He had joined the game, too. When Daniel invited me to a party as his business partner, I had to suppress the scream of excitement inside. I knew, in his mind, the invitation was purely professional, a companion to help him network, but for me, it was a milestone. An opportunity to let the world see that there was something between us and maybe, for Daniel to see it, too. I chose a simple yet elegant black velvet dress, not too revealing, but just enough to make people turn their heads. When I walked in with Daniel, his hand resting gently on the small of my back, the whole room seemed to slow down for a few seconds. "You fit the atmosphere of this party perfectly," Daniel whispered into my ear as we moved through the stairs and polite greetings. His voice was low, his head tilted slightly toward me, and I couldn't stop my heart from racing. Everything was going smoothly, until I saw Ben Benson, my ex-boyfriend, walk in. He was just as arrogant as ever, holding a glass of wine, his gaze locking onto me the moment he saw me beside Daniel Compton. Ben walked over, wearing that familiar smug half-smile. "Gemma. Long time no see. Still have a thing for CEOs, huh?" he said, throwing a glance at Daniel. I smiled, refusing to step back. "Hello, Ben. This is Daniel Compton, my boyfriend." Daniel flinched slightly, a flash of surprise in his eyes, but he didn't deny it. Instead, he extended his hand to Ben, his gaze sharper than ever. "I've heard a lot about you," Daniel said, calm but commanding. "Thanks for letting someone like Gemma go." Ben was speechless. After he retreated, Daniel turned to me. "Boyfriend?" he asked, half teasing, half sincere. I smiled, shrugged. "Would you rather I introduced you as my business partner?" Daniel didn't answer right away. He looked at me for a long moment, then suddenly, his hand tightened around my waist, pulling me closer under the soft lights and distant music. "If I were truly your boyfriend," he whispered, "I wouldn't leave you alone with someone like him." That night, Daniel took me home. No explanations. No more distance, just a quiet, steady hand holding mine, beneath the soft glow of streetlights drifting past the car window. I knew then, the door between us had opened. This was no longer a game, something real had begun. We were closer than ever, until everything collapsed like a punch thrown without warning. Daniel was accused of falsifying documents in a major business deal. Key partners immediately grew suspicious. The media began to stir, company stocks started to waver. In the blink of an eye, the man who had always seemed so steady, so untouchable, was suddenly teetering on the edge of disaster. But I knew he didn't do it. He couldn't have. Daniel was meticulous to the smallest detail. He would never risk his reputation on something so shady. But the people behind this were cunning. The trap was perfectly set, and the forged evidence seemed determined to crush all reason. I went to see him. His face was shadowed, his shirt rumpled, his eyes stripped of the usual confidence. "You don't need to worry about me," Daniel said, trying to keep his voice calm. "This could hurt you if you stay close." I didn't respond. I simply poured him a cup of coffee, and placed my hand over his. "Then let me worry about you." Daniel looked at me, truly looked at me, for what felt like the first time, not as the girl who sent him flirty messages, not as a dreamy partner hoping for love, but as a woman, one who would stand by him when the whole world turned away. I got to work immediately. Among the influential shareholders, Mrs. Thompson, the wife of a major investment fund CEO, was known for her sharp instincts and commanding voice. She was passionate about art and currently searching for someone to organize a charity exhibition for her foundation. I had experience in events. This was my chance. I pitched the idea to her. I'd organize the event, and invite Mrs. Thompson along with a few key shareholders. The goal wasn't just to impress, but to present indirect evidence, subtle proof of the clumsy forgery in the documents Daniel was accused of signing. That evening, I wore a simple white dress, standing beneath the lights of the high society crowd, not to shine but to protect the man I loved. even if he hadn't yet found the courage to admit it. And after the event, Daniel pulled me aside from the crowd. His eyes, for the first time, were filled with emotion. "Why are you doing all of this?" he asked softly. I looked at him and smiled. "Because I believe in you. And because for the first time, I know what it feels like to want to be with someone, not just for fun anymore." Daniel didn't say anything more. He simply pulled me into a quiet embrace, as if he was tired, and now, finally allowed himself to lean on someone. Just a few days after the charity gala, an unexpected piece of news broke, and it ignited the embers still burning after the crisis. The person who had sent the forged documents to the media and shareholders was someone from Daniel's legal department, Olivia. She was always quiet, reserved, with an unremarkable appearance, but what truly sent a chill down my spine was this: Olivia was currently dating Ben Benson, my ex-boyfriend, the one I had once confronted at a party. Suddenly, all the pieces clicked together in a terrifyingly perfect way. It turned out that after our breakup, Ben hadn't let go. He had been silently watching my every move, including the deepening relationship between me and Daniel. To him, it felt like betrayal, and Olivia was probably the one who volunteered to carry out the dirty work, in the name of revenge for Ben. Daniel remained quiet while I told him everything. Then he stood, grabbed his phone, and called HR, his voice cold and sharp. The next day, the entire company was shaken when Daniel revealed the truth during an emergency meeting. The evidence was clear, undeniable. Olivia was immediately dismissed, and Ben lost the consulting contract his firm had just secured, thanks to a narrow-tracted recommendation. Daniel was vindicated. Not only was his reputation restored, it was stronger than ever. That same week, the company signed a multi-million-dollar deal with a Japanese partner, something that had been stalled due to the prior fraud suspicions. The celebration party was held at a luxury hotel. Everyone came with light hearts and laughter, but my eyes searched for only one person: Daniel. He entered, poised and elegant as always, but when our eyes met, I felt something different. A warmth. A feeling no longer hidden behind distance. At the end of the evening, as guests began to leave, Daniel approached me. He leaned down and whispered, "I owe you a thank you. But maybe I owe you more than that." I looked up, about to make a playful remark, but he suddenly took my hand and gently pulled me closer, and in that moment, the world seemed to stop as Daniel pressed a soft kiss to my forehead. "Thank you for staying, Gemma." That night, we left the hotel together. No words were needed, but in the warmth of our breaths, in the quiet strength of his hand wrapped around mine, I knew, from this moment on, we were no longer just allies in battles of business. We were stepping into each other's world. No more defenses. No more pretending. Since the celebration party, neither of us tried to hide our feelings anymore. All excuses had become unnecessary. Our meetings were no longer just about contracts or strategy, but about seeking each other's presence, even if only for a few minutes. One Friday afternoon, as a sudden rain fell over the city, Daniel appeared in front of my office with his familiar black umbrella. No prior notice. No message asking to go anywhere. He was simply there, because he wanted to see me. We sat in a small cafe, watching the rain slide down the windowpane. Daniel stayed silent for a long while. Then he turned to me, his voice low and steady. "I once thought I'd never fall in love again, Gemma. But you've gently broken every rule I ever made." My heart stirred. In that moment, I was no longer the girl who once approached him because of Aurora, no longer someone with a hidden agenda. I was just Gemma, a woman who was truly in love. I took a deep breath. "At first, I wasn't sure. I got close to you because I wanted to be near her. But the more time I spent with you, the harder it became to walk away, from your eyes, from the quiet way you care, from your strength when everything seemed to fall apart." Daniel listened in silence, as if committing each word to memory. I continued, my eyes beginning to shimmer with emotion. "I think I've fallen for you." The smile at the corner of Daniel's lips wasn't dazzling, but it was warm enough to feel like sunshine after the rain. He reached for my hand and gave it a gentle squeeze. From today on, don't come to me because of anyone else. Only come because you want to. We officially began a relationship, this time, with no more pretending. Our bond was built from shared hardships, from unspoken understanding. Daniel wasn't the fairy tale romantic type, but he always remembered to bring me a coat when the weather turned chilly, delayed meetings so I could get more rest, and occasionally, amidst the endless reports and schedules, he would send a single message, "Have you eaten yet?" I never thought I'd fall in love again, and certainly not with my best friend's brother, but love doesn't follow any script, and this time, I no longer felt like I was intruding on someone else's happiness. I was living in my own, by Daniel's side.